I just got off a call with 5 founders in my community, Founder OS, and they had some problems that were insanely sticky. And you'll get to see those in a second. But I went over 4 core systems that will help them become unignorable this year and get over some of the trickiest problems they're currently facing in their business. Now, these are aspects that range from everything from where AI is going all the way through to how to go and leverage systems and people in your business to stand out this year. Let's dive in. All right, guys. Well, happy Tuesday. Hope everyone's doing well. The format is pretty simple. You guys have questions on your mind, whether it's challenges in your business, constraints, opportunities that you want some help and insights on. Anything's fair game. Nothing's offside. And we can all just chop it up and grow here together. So without further ado, we can go any direction with this. Is there anything on people's minds that they want to kick it off with?
So prior to joining the program, I was traditionally run a marketing agency, primarily in the niche of dentists. It convinced me to go down the consulting path and to, instead of doing what we're doing, we teach people how to do what we're doing. So sort of give them the insider scoop into how an agency works and teach dentists how to manage and control their own profit. And this week, 2 weeks ago, there was been some push from the governing body here in Australia and who look after the medical industry. And they've changed all of the advertising guidelines. So all of the things that I know that I've been using for marketing the last 15 years in terms of building social proof, all of those have kind of been now pushed aside. And so what direction do I now take the consulting business? Because my background in marketing has been a lot of emotive language and, the psychology of sales and things like that. And even those sorts of words, like even in ad copy, you're not even allowed to use emojis anymore.
Inevitably over the last, 5 years, there's been a new trend as, the internet and online businesses take a whole new shape and form, and that is compliance. And most people don't even think about this, but the 2000s were like the invention of the internet, 2010s, kind of like the Wild West of things being built, but now things are getting more and more regulated in the 2020s. You're going to see compliant marketing becoming more of a thing. And this is something that I see a lot of people struggling with. And so inside this next clip, I share my current perspective on this and how you can actually use compliance to become your new competitive advantage. I actually see this as being a big trend for a lot of industries over the next 20 years. I think we've gone from websites and online being a thing in the 2000s to then it being the Wild West in the 2010s to now it's been out long enough that consumer safety and consumer awareness and legalities and policies and all this are more important than ever. More and more compliance is going to be a thing in a lot of these different areas, right? You see it whether you're talking about dentists in Australia or you even see it on Hormozi's recent workshop for $100 million money models as an example. Compliance is being done in all of these different spaces. So I think the only thing that is inevitable in a lot of our spaces is that compliance is really important versus resisting it, finding the opportunity in it. You can also be sure that I think 97% of people will just ignore it. And meanwhile, if you're a student of the game and just embrace it, you're kind of already just from that mindset in an elite group of people. Yeah, it kind of positions us as the authority as well. It's kind of we know what's happening and we know what the rules are and we're going to help guide you through it. Yeah. Whereas if they get on the phone to another agency and are we don't even know what these guidelines are that you're talking about because they're just generic and look after so many different industries. Yeah, and I would be pointing out with them. I'd say, hey, listen, I just was looking at things and I found these 3 issues in your area. I would consider finding a VA, giving the VA a few audit areas that they should look for with every dentist, and then sending customized emails to each person that point out 3 areas where they're offside. Because it's such a burning thing. It's if right now you're offside and the rules and regulations say that if in a month it's not fixed, you'll be fined $10,000 a day. You got to fix that now. And so they got to get on a call with you now. It's more of a burning pain than ever.
No. Yeah.
As you're building, every single different professional or expert out there is probably governed by someone. And it's important that on any platform you're in, or any career path you take, right? You're obviously abiding by the rules and regulations there. You may look to the left or look to the right at competitors that are not doing things compliantly, but don't think that that's the way that you should go. I think that as founders, if we want to build something anti-fragile for the long term, we got to play by the rules, right? We got to have integrity and just put stuff out there that we can feel proud of and that we can sleep at night knowing that we've done a great job. When it comes to compliant marketing, as an example, it's always good to understand the parameters at which you can work in. And especially if you're helping other people with their marketing or their growth, it's imperative that you're an expert on those rules so that you're not only abiding by them yourself, but you can also help others leverage them as well. So I think you are at a crossroads, right? There's two ways you go. One is like you use this as an opportunity. The game has changed. The rules are different now. It's almost like a whole new blue ocean. I actually think that opportunity is massive. And this is probably like almost in a weird way, it could be like the best thing to ever happen to you. On the other side of it, it's like, okay, like I like to use my tactics. I like to use emotive language. I like to use before and afters. That's how I do things. This niche no longer allows for that. I'm going to move into a niche that does allow for it and keep the playbook and just move it to a different space. There's a multitude of ways you could go, but those are like two simplistic ways. Personally, my dad's a dentist. The last thing these guys know is marketing. He just knows teeth. That's the opportunity. Like they're not going to know compliant marketing and how to adapt this. And they're probably doing things even better. They're uncompliant right now. So that's the opportunity. It's not even to help them grow. It's that they're offside currently. So like you have to get them, like reduce the risk they probably currently have, because there's probably a lot of stuff that's going on now that's no longer allowed, and then setting them up to then do the stuff that is allowed in the best way possible. There are really two kinds of businesses as we look out over the next decade. This compliance thing is to become more and more of a trend as more of the internet gets more regulated. There's more rules and laws and all that. And versus thinking it's something that's working against you, future founders actually see it as the wind in their sails, an opportunity to create a whole new blue ocean in your space and a new area that you can compete on while everyone else gets left behind.
I know what I need to do.
Yeah.
That's great.
Anything on your mind, Davey, like on a similar note or related note?
Kind of, this is a new chapter of my journey. My background's e-commerce. I've been doing that for years now, but it feels so fragile. I want to be in a business where it doesn't feel like Amazon could turn me off tomorrow, or I'm like at the risk of just external factors. So
just to kind of riff on that for a sec, right? Like I do think that all of us founders, right, desire this kind of like anti-fragile business. We've all been there, right? Like you start your first business, your first offer, whatever, it's kind of slapped together. And suddenly you start like feeling just like the whims of like customer needs and market shifts and, ups and downs and peaks and valleys. And, suddenly, you start to desire something that's like more secure, it's more stable, good margins, peaceful operations, streamlined systems, and like a great team. As you're thinking, and probably we're all thinking about building like more anti-fragile businesses, one aspect is obviously like the people. As you're looking to build leverage as a founder, your team is the number one thing that you can optimize. I hear all the time from founders, how do I hire? How do I fire? How do I optimize my team? How do I remove myself from my team? There's so much there, right? And when you can crack the code on the different pieces of constructing a high performance team, you unlock new levels of being able to really accomplish the mission you're after with the business you're creating. And I hear questions about team all the time. The power of any company is the power of the team you create. I've just been watching this documentary on the Dallas Cowboys on Netflix. And, Jerry Jones is an absolute legend. And when you think about, any sports team, if you as a founder are building a sports team, you'd be like the owner of that sports team. You're building your own like fantasy team roster. And inevitably, you have your high performers that you want to be, doubling down on. You want to make sure that you're investing in these people. You're understanding, what else they think they can contribute to the organization, so that basically the organization is frictionless and you're just allowing those people to rise to the highest point they can go to in their lives, because your team, your brand, your company only benefits from those high performers. On the other side, though, you got the low performers, right? And oftentimes, we just let these people kind of stick around. There's a statistic that around 7 months is the average amount of time that a CEO allows a low performer to stay on board before removing them. 7 months, that's a long time. So what do you do? What I'm about to share in this next clip, I show you how to go and actually rank your team. So you can build your fantasy roster by having people that are above the red line and below the red line, and then how to handle those folks so that they don't become a parasite to your growth. You guys have probably heard like the adage, like the kind of person that gets you to maybe 5 million a year isn't the kind of person that gets you to 20 million a year. Or the kind of person that gets you to 100K a month maybe isn't the kind of person that gets you to 500K a month. At every stage, like you need to be auditing your team constantly. What people are like embodying the values, what people are performing. What I'll oftentimes do is like rank my team from just best to worst around this time of the year, approaching like November, December. Sometimes what I'll do too, depending on how I'm feeling, is put like a red line in that Google sheet And there's people below the line and above the line. Below the line, typically, if you're building something right and say you have a 20-person team, hopefully there's not more than like 4 people max below the red line. But as you approach like October, November, December, it's a good chance to maybe cut everyone below the red line and start to kind of like replace them now with the new people that hopefully are near the top 10% of that document. So you're just kind of constantly going and building like an anti-fragile team, right? Cutting the dead weight and bringing on the people that are going to help like propel it forward, and the people that give you peace of mind and less problems, all that good stuff. You know, as November's just around the corner here and you're looking to go and determine, you know, who are your A players, B players, and then who's below that red line, what I went and created was my team ranking OS. This is how you can go and rank your team from best to worst, right? And then make some tough decisions going into 2026 to make sure that you're set up for success. So you can go check that out via the link in the description, go and rank your team, determine who's below the red line, and then you can go watch my other video on how to fire without being a dick. So go enjoy that. The last thing I'll say on this quick, and then Billy will get to you, is like one question I always ask myself, and I will say that sometimes it's something I need to check myself on because it can borderline on giving you anxiety. So you have to kind of thread the needle here and keep it like a productive worry, not a destructive worry, which is Charlie Munger's inversion technique. We live in a culture where entrepreneurs are constantly trying to grow, right? Get to that next revenue milestone, 10x the business, 5x the business, all this stuff. But one thing I don't think that gets talked about enough is Charlie Munger's inversion technique, which simply is asking yourself, how could I fail? Right? Versus always thinking about how successful you could be. You know, think about your downside and looking at the different risk points across your business, the different ways that you could fail. Start ranking them from the ones that are, you know, the most pressing to the least, and then start to work through those aspects one by one. You may do a session where you just write down all your failure points and then start to rank your failure points. So like, what's the one that feels like the most pressing that you could solve? But like, number one is like, I don't keep up with the regulations and I become, you know, an extinct marketing agency. So he's like, okay, I'm going to be like the best student of these regulations. I'm going to get the best compliance lawyer in Australia around these. I'm going to create the best program around it and the best mentorship around it and the best brand around it that's like certified. And it's like, okay, now we've de-risked that failure point. Now, okay, next failure point. And then what happens is you've looked at some of these failure points, you've mitigated or solved them. So what are you left with? Hopefully upside, because all the areas that would cause you to your downfall, you've looked after those. Inevitably, if you can protect yourself against all the different downside risks in your venture, you give yourself the maximum potential to just only leave upside left. And so this technique is something that I often see founders ignoring. Unfortunately, I see a lot of people ignoring it to their own peril. And so I think it's something that you should be aware of to avoid disaster. When I'm talking to founders, one of the things that inevitably comes up in any conversation is AI. More founders are wondering, you know, how do I defend myself against it? How do I protect my business against it? There's this impending doom, they feel like. I like to think of it kind of like this barbell technique. What you have on one side is using technology to its maximum degree. So as an example, if you're building a community, you may actually leverage agents to go and deliver part of the value inside of that community. That's one way of leveraging AI for its maximum benefit. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, right, you have going almost the other side, which is like super offline and like anti-AI, things like in-person retreats, doing things off-grid. You know, an example with marketing would be like sending handwritten letters to people in your community. I think the area that gets tricky is the middle, which is everything else. People that are just doing business the old way. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in between those two extremes that is going to get replaced. I think there's also 3 things to think about that are essentially irreplaceable as far as I can see it over the next decade. Well, I think that there are like 3 things I don't see AI competing with on the same level as humans, say over the next like 5 years. Those 3 things being taste, authenticity, and creativity. On the taste side, that's like your own unique approach to your branding. Your brand is like your way, the way you're trying to get it to show up. AI can come up with amazing ideas and ways of doing it, but taste is like knowing that like, oh, that's not quite right. It needs to be not this, but this, right? And so that taste is always going to be needed. Like people are like, oh, AI video is going to take over the world. It's like, have you seen AI video? Like at least for the next bit, like some digital version of me is going to be speaking and doing YouTube videos, and people are going to be like, yeah, I love watching digital, Matt. I don't see that happening for like a few years, to be dead honest with you. Second is the most important one, which is authenticity. What will happen is like a lot of AI generated stuff kind of feels knockoff. Like it's not the real thing. So like what actually makes you and like what makes humans human? It's like we make mistakes. We use ums and ahs a little bit. We have that kind of like wabi-sabi nature, right? Like we're very imperfect. The last thing there just is in creativity, right? Like the next Scorsese film being made 100% by AI, I don't think is going to happen. I think AI can be used to come up with creative ideas. Don't get me wrong, I use it all the time. But that said, human creativity is its own magical machine. You create something, by hand, whether it's, writing a book or, creating some art or whatever it may be. It's just got that human touch on it. And I think more and more people are going to crave this sort of like homemade, handmade, real touch that's human amidst all this AI soup you're going to see across social media and across the world over the next 10 years. I think that founders that embrace their authenticity, embrace their taste and creativity, and exploit it to the biggest degree possible will not be left in this next wave. In fact, they'll likely thrive and stand out versus everyone else. So with AI being a hot topic, every founder is looking to leverage it to make sure that they still exist over the next decade. So what I did is I went and worked with my team over about 40 hours, and we collected all of the best data, insights, and systems we could think of so that you could build AI into a moat. And so you can go and download this resource via the link in the description, pass it on to your team, and implement it in your business today. So what you're seeing here, right, is a room full of people all helping one another, the core aspects of building successful businesses. This room is packed with founders that are putting in the work. They're implementing systems and they're getting the support, the mentorship, and as you can see, the direct insights from me to really scale up what they're building. And so, if you're looking to go and join the community, you should go check out FounderOS via the link in the description. Go and apply. We'd love to chat with you, understand what you're looking to do. Hopefully see you on the inside. Let's get it.